Welcome to Consolidated Gold Mines. My name's Devin. I'm going to be y'all's tour guide today. Before we make our way underground, I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about our mine and the first gold rush that took place here in Dahlonega. Now, it's all started in the early 1800s with one guy named Benjamin Parks. Now, he was going on a normal hunting trip just here in the woods above us. As he was making his way through the woods, though, he ended up kicking a big, heavy rock under a pile of leaves. Guess what that was? Gold. It was gold. It was a real big gold nugget. He brought it home with him, and guess what he did with it?
Sold it.
That would have been a good idea. He decided to use it as a doorstop. He wasn't a very smart guy. But after a little while, he realized that his doorstop had a nice little pretty golden luster to it, so that's when he decided to bring it over to his friend, and that's when he told him it was gold. Now, he got really excited, decided to go around town bragging about this big chunk of gold. Wasn't a very good idea. 15,000 people ended up hearing a word about this one chunk of gold, and they all wanted to come down here to Dahlonega to get a piece of it for themselves, or to strike it rich, as they'd say back then. Now, more and more of those above ground gold panning prospectors came around here over the years, which caused those big common gold nuggets to finally start to disappear. That caused those gold miners to get bored. Then they heard about the gold rush out in California, packed up their bags, headed out there. That left all the underground hard rock mining companies here in Dahlonega. About 20 years after the gold rush ended, a bunch of these companies ended up coming together under a group of investors. They created the Consolidated Gold Mining Company in 1896. They opened up this mine right here in 1898, closed 8 years later due to bankruptcy on 1906. But after that, we flooded completely abandoned for about 80 years, eventually reopened back up to mine again with the people that own this place today, but gold prices got too low, so they decided to turn it into tours. All right, y'all, now that you know a little bit about our mine, are you ready to make our way underground?
Yeah, a good ceiling,
All right, y'all, this right here is our Knight's vein. This actually did used to be one of the biggest white quartz veins ever to be found. This whole cavity you see here in this little section we're about to walk through down here was all filled with that white quartz.
Now this whole cavity right here, which is probably 50 or 60 feet tall and about 15 feet wide, would have been full of white quartz, which would contain the flour gold that was mined here. That's really a giant cavity.
All right, y'all. We are still inside the Knight's vein. I was saying just a minute ago. Now that right there is actually most of what's left of our Knight's vein. They most likely left this little portion here for some structural reasons, just to add a little bit more support for the ceiling. But that is gold-bearing quartz, so y'all are looking at gold right now. Now there actually is a lot of this white quartz and gold still left down here in our mine. Well, that's because when they went bankrupt, obviously they had to leave everything they couldn't get to behind. Then when we came back those 80 years later, we were hoping to come back, clear everything out, and get all the gold out of here. That definitely didn't happen.
Now what he's fixing to show us here is hammer drilling.
This is the hand stealing hammer. It was very bad, super slow. Definitely one of the first reasons why they first started losing money. So this was a two-man job. One guy would hold this hand steel in the rock. Again, obviously they would use a bunch of different sized ones because they had to make these holes 6 foot deep to fit all the dynamite. If he would hold that in there, his partner would grab a hammer, not a 5-pound mallet like this. It would have been about a 15 to 20-pound sledgehammer. Yeah, you better have had good aim. You get that hand steel just like that. His partner would twist it, would keep you from getting stuck in the rock. Then you repeat this process over and over again. 12 hours a day, every day, so he made as many holes as he could. This job is just as slow as it looks. It took you about 6 hours just to create one of these 6 foot deep holes. So you were really only working about a foot per hour. But you were making yourself about 90 cents a day. Sounds pretty terrible nowadays, but making that back then, right after the gold rush, you actually could have bought yourself a house in Dahlonega in just over a year's time.
This drill became stuck 120 years ago, and it was unable to get it out. Also, this bit cost about 90 cents, and that's about what they made in one day.
And neither one of them got paid that day. Yeah. talk about it pretty carefully. All right, y'all. Go ahead and follow me. This is my left-hand side. Just like
Mm-hmm.
hook up the ceiling. Now this right here is our deep tunnel. Bet you can't guess how it got its name. It's pretty deep. If you look down there, you can see the surface level of that water right there. It actually goes about another 200 feet down from there to a collapse. Wow.
That's another step.
Got some of those in the house, don't we?
Yeah, that's later model. This mine will open though. Hey, it's come to our attention that you're not subscribed. So subscribe to our channel. I don't care if you watch it again, just subscribe.
This was one of the first drills of its time. It definitely was a lot better than using a metal stick and hammer above your head, but this thing could only mine straight up. It was literally just a jackhammer flipped upside down. It wasn't very special. But it was powered by compressed air, just about like every other drill down here in our mine. This was also a two-man job because, well, back then it weighed about 250 pounds. And they would build scaffolding and temporary structures throughout tunnels like this. Then those two men would grab this drill, work their way up there, about 40 feet up in the air here, hoist this thing above their head, and work.
I'm pretty sure we've seen some of those drills. The bits before.
Drill stuck in the wall, and well, this big old drill right here on the ground. This is the main thing we're looking at here. This is a dripper drill. We'll talk a lot more about it later, but there's only about 20 of these things left in the world still. They all got confiscated during World War II during the metal shortage and turned into military weapons. So there's not really many of them left, and out of those 20, only 2 of them still work, and we have one of them down here in our mine, and I'm going to turn it on for y'all in just a little bit. But that drill stuck in the wall, we did not put that there, so I'm very unlucky guy actually got that stuck in the rock, and they'll probably didn't get paid for a while. All right, we're going to make our way into this tunnel right here on our left-hand side. There is some white quartz. Y'all can take a close look at that. All these benches should be dried off and go pretty good.
We haven't walked on one. We usually crawl on one.
A what?
So this is the first one we've ever walked, and we usually are crawling or sliding.
That's pretty.
This is actually where they were planning their next blast well before they went bankrupt. Because they were heading this way hoping to run into another one of those white quartz deposits until, well, they ran out of money and didn't find it. Turns out there wasn't even one over here, and they were going this way for no direction, for no reason. So again, what basically happened and why we went bankrupt is because our mine's motto was to try to get the gold out of the ground as fast as they could. They had just recently discovered that this gold was down here in the white quartz. Not a lot of people knew about it, so they were trying to get to it, get it all before anybody else had the chance to. But we're going to talk about how they would have done these blasts, a little bit about the dynamite they used. First of all, obviously, in our dynamite today, we use gunpowder. It's a lot safer than what they used. They used something called liquid nitroglycerin. If you've heard of that stuff, you know how dangerous it is. It's super unstable. It's one of the most dangerous things ever created. Now, there's 2 different ways this stuff can detonate. That's what made it so dangerous. One, just spark, lighting that fuse, or getting any kind of flame or heat next to it. It'll blow up on you. Now, the second way this stuff could detonate as well, through if you just shook it up a little bit too much, or tripped, stumbled, or any kind of slight vibrations to disrupt the liquid in there would have caused it to blow up as well. So you have to be very careful moving this stuff down in the mine or transporting it. Once you got it down here to the miner's feet, though, in front of this wall, you would have to grab one stick at a time to load into the wall. You would put one into that 6-foot deep hole, put some mud or clay on top of it to act for cushioning. Then you would grab a nice fancy broomstick like this one and slowly push that down the mud stick all the way to the end of that hole here. Now, then you'd have to follow it up with 5 more, finishing off the 12 rest of the holes. Once you filled all that up with that slow process, once you blew up the wall, it only made you about 5.5 to 6 foot deep in that direction. And back then, liquid nitroglycerin was not very cheap. So you were spending a lot of money per blast, and well, if you weren't finding enough white quartz, you were going to end up like these guys did. All right, but the pattern these guys used on the wall would be about a line of 3 holes across the top, a line of 3 holes beneath that one, another line of 3 holes beneath that one, then a singular hole here, and then another line of 3 holes right by the floor. Now, the reason they use this pattern is because, well, they only had to use one fuse, especially with the liquid nitroglycerin. They would put the fuse right here. It would be about a 3-minute long fuse. Once it blew up, it would cause everything else around it here to blow up, then that hole, and then lastly that 3 along the bottom, just a couple milliseconds after. Now, the reason those blew up last is because, well, the ones on the bottom weren't meant to break rock. They were called lifters. Once they blew up, again, all this rock had already been shattered and broken up. So these would actually blast all that fractured rock out of the wall into the floor, making it easy for these miners to get it out of the way and start on their next blast. So they did have a little bit of technique behind the formation they used or the pattern. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys some of this liquid nitroglycerin dynamite. I actually don't know if this stuff is still active, so please just try to be careful with it. But if you take a look in here, you'll actually see the name on the side. It says Aetna, like the health insurance company, right? Yeah, they manufactured all of our explosives back in the day. Huh. I guess they found another way to kill people. See all that in there. All right. Like I was saying, y'all, do need to be careful with this. No matter what we do, we want to drop it.
Who knew that was?
But one wrong move, as you can see, and we probably would have ended up on the other end of the tunnel, not all the way in one piece. But this right here is about how long that fuse I was talking about. Burned for about 3 minutes, not long enough. Move at just about 40 miles an hour. Wow. Yeah, pretty quick back then. Also, these were they are still to this day the most dangerous piece of equipment you can find in the mine, because they still use this type of mine cart now. Because, well, if there's any kind of water on these tracks and this mine cart comes over it, it's instantly going to hydroplane and fly right off the tracks. And it's going to be very hard to stop. Yeah, it is also still from this mine. So it's kind of cool to see the difference between how good and bad the shape is. Alright, well, this is the drifter that I was talking about just a moment ago. This definitely was the most advanced piece of machinery that we pretty much had down here in the mine, but sadly they didn't get to use it for very long because they went bankrupt just after this drill bit got introduced, and only used it for about 2 years, somewhere around there, 2 or 3 years. But this thing was very efficient. Now, it was a lot better than anything we've seen so far because, well, you didn't even have to carry it anymore. It would be mounted on a post like this. Now, all you had to do was stick a rod through, jam it between the roof and the ceiling, and then mount this drill onto here. And, well, this drill could pivot in a full 360 here. You could slide it up and down, face this thing towards the ceiling, floor, diagonally, pretty much anywhere around here. But the drill bits on this drill, or the drill in general too, was just a lot better because you could use a lot longer drill bits and it drilled a lot steadier and a lot faster. Now, but even though it drilled so fast, sometimes that can be bad. It generates a lot more heat. It can heat up a lot quicker, but that's why with this drill, they decided to make it powered by compressed air and water. So how this worked, This drill bit right here, well, all of them that this drill used were completely hollow on the inside. They would shoot the water as the drill was running through the drill itself, cleaning it out, making sure that it would be cooled down, or cooling it down, then shooting all the water out of the drill bit into the hole that it was creating, cleaning out all of that silica dust and everything and knocking it to the ground before you had time to breathe it in. And also, it would cool down the drill bit, making sure it wouldn't expand and get stuck like we talked about earlier. Now, this drill also did pay about $2 a day, which back then was really good. You could buy yourself a house in about 6 months back then with this pay. And that was really good. Now, eventually, though, these people realized that the job itself wasn't as good as the pay, because this thing was super loud. And eventually they got tired of it. Some of these men started making their own hearing protection. You've probably heard of it before. Honey, cotton, and wax mixed together. You stuff it in your ears and blocks out all the noise. Now, it works pretty well. These guys weren't losing their hearing from the drill or anything like that, but eventually they realized you can't really get all of that honey and wax and that cotton out of your ears because it's very sticky. And if you leave enough of it in there, you're going to get a really, really bad ear infection. And that's going to cause you to go deaf, lose all your hearing. Now, for the guys that didn't decide to do that and just toughed it out working on the drill, they would go deaf in about 3 months. Yeah, so either way, you were going to lose your hearing working on this thing. This eventually became another big problem because, well, people stopped responding to fire in the hole. Then their boss decided that he was going to make his own solution. So you would work 2 weeks on this drill and then 2 weeks off. Now, these miners really liked this because, well, they only had to work 2 weeks, and then those 2 weeks off, you could do any other job down here in our mine, just you still got paid that $2 a day. So you got a little bit of break off your ears, and you still made your same pay. This was a great solution to this because, well, now you'd only go deaf in about 6 months. Awesome, right? But that's the perfect amount of time, y'all, because you would be enjoying your very, very nice peace and quiet on your brand new front porch. If you know what I mean. All right, y'all. Well, I'm about to turn this drill on here. This thing is about 120 years old. This thing is a miracle that this drill still works. It was found down here in this mine. It was underwater again for 80 years. Everything on it is original except for the piping and this one bolt right here because it was just so corroded we had to replace it. But then everything else internal is all original. It's running at about 25% power, so it's not going to be fully as loud as it was back then. But if you all have sensitive hearing, you can cover your ears. If you do, when I raise my hand in the air, I'll make sure you take those off and you're going to hear a nice little sound at the end. All right, are you ready?
Let's do it.
The count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that goes really good through the small parts of mine.
So cool.
All right, you guys, if anybody does want to take any pictures with this, feel free to. You can touch it, just gonna be very gentle with it if you do. And do not touch this yellow lever right here. If you do, trust me, pretty sure we'll all find out. But right here, guys, all these insulators that I'm gonna move along are actually all originals from our mine. Kind of weird for these things to work. They usually break underwater during the crushers, but this is how this runs. And these are also better for the bags and more as well, guys. Yes. You should have that.
Perfect.
We were lucky enough to get in a small group because the group before us and after us that we passed on these stairs had about 20 people each in them. So take that, people.
Yes.
So they cemented off the top too.
Yeah.
All right, this is going to end this video for us today. We appreciate y'all watching. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll see y'all on our next adventure.
On our next adventure. I don't guess they had this truck way back whenever, did they?
I don't know. Look at all that gold up there, though. Man,
Yeah,
rich.
we are out of here. Uh-oh. Hope that wasn't on there.